Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by Giant Mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and mediocre middle relief pitcher who earned himself a film and media studies degree. Now I'm a single dad who loves to talk Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, and television. I also mix in some funny stories and life lessons along the way. On today's episode, we're going to be breaking down, recapping, reviewing the New York Football Giants losing to the Dallas Cowboys 40-37 in an OT thriller for the ages. Are the Giants back? Question mark. Not so much. We'll review Russell Wilson's historic day, how the defense let us down yet again, and what to expect as we head into a Week 3 matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs in prime time for our home opener. Oh my God. Train wreck incoming. Chiefs are 0-2. You thought the referees were bad in Week 2. Buckle up, Buttercup. Week 3 is going to be a disaster class in refereeing and umpiring. And then we'll take a look at a former Giants quarterback who everyone cast off. That's the only hint I'm going to give you. So without further ado, let's get started. I didn't have much of a preview coming into this game just because of how awful we played against Washington in Week 1. A lot of people were just saying we're going to get our doors blown off. And I think we might have misread the situation a little bit. Hand up. That's on me. That's on us for overestimating what happened in Week 1, overcompensating. Eagles, Cowboys. Eagles get it to a big lead in the first half. Cowboys work their way back into it. And then you have that weird weather delay. And so you thought, well, maybe the Cowboys aren't as bad as everyone is projecting them to be. You know, the offense looks like it's back to what the levels were in 2023 when they were just firing on all cylinders. The fact that we have not beaten Dak Prescott since 2016, we have not won in Dallas since 2016, Dak Prescott's rookie year. He has won 14, 15 straight against us, something like that. He's tied for he's either tied or now has the record for one quarterback's most consecutive victories against one team. And that record has been long-standing. I think that goes back to the 60s, I want to say. It's just so long. So, the fact that we just have slumped and struggled against the Cowboys for so long did also not give me high hopes. And it was like, what's worth previewing? And in my preview, in the limited amount of time that I did talk about this game, I was like, well, let's run the ball. Seems like the Cowboys are porous against the run. After 1 week, they were 29th in rush defense. So let's use this opportunity to at least ground and pound and run the ball, keep Dak off the field and cross our fingers. And it turns out maybe I should do a little bit more detailed previews because Deron Bland out with an injury. Trayvon Diggs was coming back from an injury, and so he's kind of not 100%. So the secondary is banged up and vulnerable, and the Giants took full advantage of that. What a game. What a freaking game. Wild AF. 40-37 loss in overtime. I didn't think that we had it in us to come back after going down with 52 seconds left in the game. I thought to myself, we're down by a touch. I don't think we're going to pull this. What are the odds of us pulling this out? Probably slim to none. Didn't have high hopes. And then Russ rips off that deep shot moon ball to Malik Neighbors, scores the touchdown. I lost my mind. I don't know if you follow me on the twits, on the X, but couldn't even type words. I think that was the reaction from just about everyone following the Giants. And then I looked at the clock and I'm like, there's 25 seconds left and we're up by 3. We scored with too much time on the clock. Didn't think we would score. We did score, left too much time on the clock, 25 seconds. And who knows, underneath the old rules, old kickoff, you kick it deep, touchback at the 20. Do the Cowboys have enough to get into field goal range with Brandon Aubrey? Probably. Dude says he can hit it from 70, and 75 is a quote-unquote stretch. So I think even if they did kick a touchback and get at the 20, I just the way that Shane Bowen called the defense in the fourth quarter, specifically in the last two Cowboys drives in regulation, and then in that last drive in OT, the game winner for the Cowboys. Just SAWFT soft. As some say, it was the old baby shit defense. Very soft. Prevent deep three. How do you do that? I don't know. But we'll dive into it. We'll go rewind back to the beginning. Andrew Thomas out yet again with the foot. I don't know if the media downplayed this injury or didn't play it up enough, but it seems like it intensely serious. Like, it's so serious. Everyone's just like, oh, foot injury. It's like, well, Liz Frank has a very lengthy timeline for recovery. So the timetable on that is pretty extensive. And then you add into the fact that he re-injured it, aggravated it at some point in the offseason. I don't know. But I think everyone was pretty much in agreement. You don't want to rush him back and then potentially lose him for the rest of the season. So let's just sit him down. Now, does that mean we gave a full ringing endorsement to James Hudson? No. It was just like, we don't want to lose Andrew Thomas. And it's safe to say after Sunday's performance in week 2 that it'll be bad news bears if James Hudson is back in the starting lineup or on the offensive line during an NFL regular season game. That'll be that the wheels are off the wagon at that point. Evan Neal, another healthy scratch. Another week, another healthy scratch. Mr. Glass half full and X said, Evan Neal not only lost the starting right guard battle to a 35-year-old Greg Van Roten, who is arguably the weakest link on the OL. John Michael Schmitz Jr. chimes in with hold my beer. But Evan Neal can't even make the 53-man roster on Sundays. He says it's an absurd misevaluation of his talent and an absurd lack of want to from the player. I agree with that last part. It's just like, I don't know what the fuck Evan Neal. I think ever since the Giants got booed, was it in 2023 against the Seahawks in that horrific primetime loss where he gets booed and then he starts to go after the fans. I think that's when it was like, yeah. After that and the backlash from that, it was just like, in his head, I think he checked out. I think he was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'll do enough to make the team, and he also has the luxury of being a first round pick and knowing that offensive line is such a tight priority that he can rest on the fact that he's a first round pick, and the GM does not want to admit that he made a mistake or that the coaching staff made mistakes in his development. We keep pointing to Evan Neal as a massive failure on Joe Shane's part, but the pick was across the board. Everyone was pleased with the pick, excited about the pick. We thought we got our guy. It was like, wow, we have our bookends for years and years to come. Like, the offensive line is back. And it's just like, it's a combination of, I think, the coaches not being able to figure it out for Evan and unlock anything within Evan. But it's also Evan being like, what are you doing, dude? The injuries didn't help, obviously. But also, what are you doing? When you are healthy, what are you doing? So, were there trade offers on the table for Evan Neal? And if you said no to them, why? This is where it's like there feels like there's front office and the coaching staff, like the administration, the GMs, those guys are just not seeing eye to eye with the coaches. I think they're just both like, it's like almost like the Spider-Man meme, but they're both just pointing at each other like, well, we drafted this guy. We got an A grade for it, A+ grade for this pick. What happened? And the coaches are going, no, this is not an A+ pick. And it's like, can you make him into an A+ pick? And it's like, no. Like, what? So it's like the round and round we go, just pointing fingers back and forth. Is it the GM? Is it the coaching? Is it the GM? Is it the coaching? It's like, I think all y'all need to go. I think the coaches need to go and the GM needs to go if you both can't get on the same page and figure it out. Thomas Fidone, another healthy scratch. That's a 7th round pick, so I don't think it's getting as much attention, but it's still like, Nacho is out with a foot thing, which I don't think he was sorely missed. Winston's your emergency quarterback, but the big one is Andrew Thomas, and as soon as he's ruled out, I think everyone is just in accordance. Like, yeah, this is a loss coming at you, high and tight. This was the third game in NFL history to go to overtime after each team scored at least 20 points in the fourth quarter. This was the first overtime game in the series since October 16th, 2005 at Texas Stadium. It was also the last time that game in October of 2005 was the last time the Giants played a noon local time game at Dallas, so a 1 o'clock game. Hard to believe it's been that long. It's been 20 years. And what a way to celebrate the 20th anniversary. There were 6 lead changes in the fourth quarter and overtime. That's tied for the most in a game in NFL history with the Minnesota Vikings against Baltimore Ravens in Week 14, 2013. I want to say if you go on YouTube and look at most exciting finishes or most exciting endings to NFL games, one of those two, that Vikings-Ravens game is in the mix there in that YouTube video. So check that out. And then I would have to imagine they update that video with this little guy, this little gem that we got in week 2 of the 2025 season. John Schmelk from Giants.com. This is from the Cover 3 article that you'll usually see after the games. He, Salomon, and I guess I don't know if they rotate, but they have a third guy that in the mix there. And all 3 said this was the craziest regular season game they have seen since joining the Giants staff, which John Schmelk began in 2006. He said that this game reminded him a lot of the 52-49 loss to the Saints on November 1st, 2015. I have to agree that was a fun one to watch. Again, one of many games in 2015 that we just let slip away. It was a win, turned into a loss. Thanks, defense. Thanks, special teams. Dan Salomon, also Giants.com, part of that Cover 3 feature that they do, said this was the craziest regular season game since he joined in 2010. He said a close second would be in 2011 when the Giants won a thriller in Dallas by scoring 15 points in the final 3 minutes before Jason Pierre-Paul blocked just enough of Dan Bailey's potential game-tying field goal attempt when he had all of his fingers and essentially, but not so much, breathed some life back into that season because we were coming off like a 4-game losing streak. I think we were like 6-2 to start the season. And then we lost 4 in a row to go to 6-6. Then we went 7-6 after this win. I think we ended up losing to the Washington the next week. In 2007, 2011 were, in terms of regular season matchups against Washington, were weird. Just like 2007, I think we dropped one to them at home that I was there and it was just ugly. And then 2011, same thing. It was just ugly. Bad loss. But obviously we go to beat the Jets and Cowboys to finish out the season with a 9-7 record, gets us in the playoffs. Matt Sitek from Giants.com said this was the craziest regular season game since covering the Giants began in 2019. He said the 2022 opener versus the Titans was pretty crazy, going for 2 to get the win, and then that 2023 comeback against the Cardinals when we were down 21 or 20 some odd points at half, and then Daniel Jones just ripped off one of the best second halves you'll ever see from a quarterback in NFL history. God bless you, Daniel. There were 14 accepted penalties in this game against the Giants for 160 yards. Jordan Raynon on X said the Giants were flagged a ridiculous 21 times in Sunday's loss to the Cowboys, 3 times on the same play. James Hudson 4 times on the same drive. Unprecedented amount of accepted penalties, and the yardage was the most penalty yards in a game by the Giants this century. That's 25 years, folks, for those scoring at home. You had the big holding penalty on the opening kickoff that brought back a really nice return from Gunnar Olszewski. That would have put us in field goal range without any offensive plays, any offensive snaps. And a guy that we just elevated from the practice squad gets flags for a hold where I believe if you watch the replay, it's like would not have made an impact on the play. Darius Slayton got flagged for a holding on the 5th play from scrimmage, spoiling a 24-yard run by Tyrone Tracy. I think there was another big play from Cam Scattaboo, who had a really good game, really great game, because of James Hudson. James Hudson committed 4 penalties all by his lonesome. 2 for false starts, 2 for unnecessary roughness on the same motherfucking drive. There were multiple roughing the passer calls that were very, very questionable. I want to say there was 2, maybe even 3 roughing the passer calls, whereas each time it's like, if this were 1986, if this were 1997, if this were even 2008, if this were even 2017, feels like as long as I've been alive, up until the past, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years maybe, none of those would have been called. None of those would have been called, but they're really they're going to very great lengths to make sure that the quarterbacks stay healthy, because when the starting quarterbacks stay healthy, they make the games better. They make the games more entertaining. They make the games more enjoyable. So, you understand you want to protect the quarterback. So if you just make contact going at not even full speed, where the head of the quarterback gets touched, just touched, not hit per se, but just touched, that's a 15-yard penalty. Oh my God. The one play, I forgot who the defensive lineman was. I want to say it was either Solomon Thomas or, not Solomon Thomas, Elijah Garcia, or one of those big dudes, D tackles. Hits Stack, makes the concerted effort not to put all his weight on him, like really does try and turn, gets flagged for 15 yards. There were some questionable defensive pass interference calls. Just flag happy. I mean, if the Giants alone got flagged 21 times, I think the Cowboys also had double digits in flags. I mean, you were seeing, if there's 70+ plays, snaps, it was half the snaps or more had a flag. It got to the point where like the referees were laughing during the one play where there was 4 different penalties on the same play. It was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like the taunting call on CeeDee Lamb, stupid. Are they saying he was doing guns? Remember the whole finger gun thing that the ordeal we went through with Darius Slayton, where it's like, if you put the thumb down, it's okay. You put the thumb up, it's a gun made out of your finger that does not contain bullets. Just an obscene, absurd amount of flags, and everyone and their mother is already saying that that's going to happen again in the Chiefs game in favor of Kansas City. But there were still plenty of penalties where it's like fairly obvious, and the Giants were there must have been a discussion after the Week 1 game where it's like, we came out and we played like dog crap, because where's the energy? Where's the aggression, the assertion? Where's the enthusiasm? Where's the fucking energy? Dable must have laid down a challenge to this team and say, guys, we're only in week 2 and we're acting like we're dead out here. I want you to be more aggressive. I want you to be more assertive. And he probably at one point said, I don't care if it draws a flag. We need to be more aggressive and assertive. And it's like, well, I think we do care a little bit about the flags when they flip field position. You get a big play down to the 10, comes all the way back because you have a personal foul. It's just like, ay. Giants Daily on X wrote, the penalty issue for the Giants was apparent during training camp. Looked like a completely undisciplined team. It's becoming a signature of the Brian Dable era. I feel like more times than not, we're seeing a lot of these games where there are just double-digit penalties on our team, and it's very uncharacteristic for us. It's like, that's something you would see from the old school Raiders, not the New York Giants of the past. I don't know how many years, but there were 7 second-half lead changes and 41 combined points scored in the fourth quarter. So, listen, I think Connor Hughes did a report from the field saying like this team is not any different, and it was just like, and people are just taking him to task on that. It's like, what is this for clicks? What are you talking about? We haven't seen a game like this in a long, long time. Minus maybe the Giants Colts game from last season, but that was like season's over. Colts are just not trying. And the Giants took advantage of that because you had a lot of guys that maybe have been playing for a spot on the roster the next year, contract, free agent contract, whatever. So we have not seen a very thrilling game like this, high-scoring, competitive game like this in a long, long time. So we'll start on the offensive side of the ball because that will give us joy, and that might make you stick around a little bit longer and not completely tune out and be like, I don't need this shit. So we'll start on the offense. Like I said, AT out, James Hudson, just one of the all-time worst drives that you can have for one player in a game, much less the opening drive. So James Hudson called for 4 penalties in the opening possession. It's the first time this century a player was called for 4 penalties on one drive. Holy shit. At Doug Analytics said since 1999, only 29 players have ever had 3 penalties on the same drive. And Hudson had 4 on that opening drive. So you're talking about in 20 plus years of NFL games, there's 16 to 17 per year, there's 17 to 16 weeks in a year, times 20 year, times, I mean, you're talking about like you're in rarefied air when you break that record. When you're just on that list of 3, and then Hudson managed to do it with 4. I will say the one that is getting a lot of attention on social media is the head slap one. And it's not like offensive linemen don't normally do that. They do. He was going up against what appeared to be a linebacker or a smaller defensive end who lost his footing. Now, is that an excuse? No, but I think if the lineman or linebacker maintains his footing and doesn't slip, it's possible that he hits him in the shoulder pad. And we're not talking about this, but the guy slipped and it was enough to look like a head slap, and it gets flagged and it brings back a big play. So insane in the membrane that he was not. I mean, Greg Olson, who is the broadcaster on the call for Fox on the TV broadcast, was like, you got to get him out. You got to pull him. You got to get him out. You got to pull him. And even his broadcasting partner was in agreement. And then the 4th one happens, and they were just shocked. How is this guy still in the game? What is going on? I was losing my mind. I think every Giants fan that I was following on X was losing their shit that this guy was still in the game. And then you have the booth saying, and you have a lot of the people that are at the game saying, Dable's trying to pull him, wants him out of the game, wants to pull him, but why is that not happening? So how is it that Dable wants Hudson out of the game? Isn't the head coach the guy with the final say? Unless, I don't know, Shane's back on the headsets. It's like, no, you can't take him out because then that'll make me look like shit again. That's it, because it'll look like I signed a really horrible, bad free agent that's not going to help us whatsoever to a contract that's a little. So I would love to know the story, the inside story on that. I'd pay a lot of money to know. Like Dable said, pull him. Someone, the offensive line coach, Carmen Brasillo, was like, no, give him another chance. No, we're all on the same page here. Pull him out of the game. He's killing you. And then you see what happens when you bring Marcus Bowen, and he plays, I mean, good. I know the grades probably are not going to reflect it, but just from the eye test alone, it's like he passes the test. He needs to be in the lineup, like over this Hudson dickhead. Dan Duggan on X says another fun camp storyline was James Hudson's edge, quote unquote. Also could be called undisciplined. 4 penalties on the drive, including 2 personal fouls, is incomprehensible. Could see Dable on the broadcast say to get Marcus Bowe in. So again, if he's saying pull Hudson, put Bowe in, who is saying no and overruling him? I've been racking my brain about this, and the only thing I can think of is someone is saying don't let the emotions get to you, and don't do this based on emotion. And also, we don't want to upset the rhythm of the offense, maybe, but like Hudson, by getting these penalties, is upsetting the rhythm. So at Dan Schneier on X said, I don't give a flying you know what. My word. how bone dry the offensive tackle market was in free agency, Joe Shane signing James Hudson, knowing that Andrew Thomas was unlikely to be ready for not just one, but maybe two more games, is just another tally in a resume littered with red flags. And I wholeheartedly agree. I cannot believe we're talking about this again this year when we talked about it last year. How did you not have a contingency plan for Andrew Thomas? If your contingency plan for Andrew Thomas in 2024 was Joshua Zudu, fail. Your contingency plan for Andrew Thomas in 2025 is James Hudson, double fail. So you've now been in the organization. I'm speaking about Joe Shane and Brian Dable now. You have been with the organization since 2022. It cannot be a surprise to you, and it cannot be news to you that Andrew Thomas has full-on admitted that he has got problems with his feet and his foot, and that he's been missed a ton of games due to injury. And yes, when he starts and plays, we win games. We win more than we lose. When we miss him, he's out of the he's out of the lineup. We are awful. And you went into this season with motherfucking James Hudson as your backup plan, your contingency plan. Now that's on the GM, but the GM also drafted Marcus Bowe, who looked good in the preseason. And like I mentioned last week, why isn't Marcus Bowe playing when James Hudson is such a nightmare and a train wreck at left tackle? Why isn't Marcus Bowe playing? There was no reasoning. There was nothing. But the inference here is he's not ready. And that's what really upset me and frustrated me about week one is like, how is he not ready? Why is Darius Alexander a third-round draft pick a healthy scratch in week one? You know, there's a lot of like questionable things. Like the GM, you can't just point to the GM or the coaching staff. You point to them both at the same time, and you say, "Okay, Kim, real quick, you got like I don't know, maybe like 3 months. We're just gonna lock you in this closet, and you guys need to fucking work your shit out. You need to hash it out in this closet for 3 months because whatever you're saying to each other, it's not resonating. One person's talking and you're not listening, or you are denying them. What are the conversations like between these two groups? Because obviously it's just not connecting. Marcus Bowe, and is, okay, you're not going to start Marcus Bowe because you didn't hand him a big contract and you're paying $6 million to James Hudson. But by all accounts from everyone involved that I've listened to talk about James Hudson, he's awful, but Marcus Bowe looks good, but we're not paying him $6 million. We're paying this other asshole $6 million. So we need to play the guy who's getting $6 million, even though he doesn't deserve to play, when we have a capable guy in Marcus Bowe. Oh my God, dude. It's infuriating. Sean Marash on X said it's actually unacceptable that you cannot bench a backup left tackle after 50 penalties because you have no answer. Can't believe you paid this man $6 million a year. Rushed to sign, and we also rushed to sign him on day one of free agency. Those were two other phenomenal tweets that I came across. You're paying this guy $6 million a year, and it also wasn't like a last resort thing. And okay, the left tackle market, not great. Illuminor was signed to be a guard. I can't believe we had to go over this fucking shit again. It's a broken record. But signed to be a guard. You thought Evan Neal was your right tackle. Evan Neal blows, gets hurt. You then shift Illuminor to right tackle. You sign Greg Van Roten at right guard. Okay. Andrew Thomas, long history of injuries. You thought James Hudson would be the answer there. You draft Marcus Bowe as a guard, as a tackle, and then, everyone's sitting here going, well, you need to pull Hudson. That's obvious. Shift your best offensive lineman, Jermaine Illuminor. If Andrew Thomas is not healthy, Illuminor is your best offensive lineman. You shift him from right tackle to left tackle, and you put Marcus Bowe, who, a rookie, 5th round pick or whatever, at right tackle. Because you put him there in the preseason, he looked pretty good. Instead, they finally decided to pull James Hudson, and they put Marcus Bowe at left tackle, and I was just like, what the hell is this coaching staff thinking? But ultimately it paid off, so they don't look like total asses on that move. But I don't know. It shouldn't take you that long. It shouldn't. Bobby Skinner had a great post on X saying, "Let's power rank the Giants' offensive tackles to start 2 games since 2018." Eric Flowers. I mean, wouldn't you take Eric Flowers in a heartbeat? like 2015, 2016 Eric Flowers. Would you take him in 2023 and 2024 when Andrew Thomas got hurt each year? Yeah, I would think about it. Bobby Hart, yikes. Justin Pugh, straight off the couch. Nate Solder, one of the worst free agent contracts and signings in franchise history. Chad Wheeler, yikes. Mike Remmers, yikes. Andrew Thomas, obviously very number one with a bullet. Cam Fleming, didn't do a whole lot. Matt Parrott, oh my God. Evan Neal, Wolf, Tyree Phillips. I mean, if we're doing a power ranking here and we all know that Thomas is 1, you would think that Illuminor would be 2, but maybe it is Tyree Phillips. Pugh kind of, Pugh for being a guy that was a guard, drafted as a guard, or he was drafted as a tackle, but it was right tackle. But yeah, I mean, this is just a laundry list of no goods. Chris Hubbard, old Mother Hubbard. That was your plan last year. You had to go out and sign Tyree Phillips off a practice squad twice from another team. Twice, I think, to come in and play tackle for you because you don't know how to find, draft, or sign offensive linemen. But listen, I thought Bo did really well. I think it's worth. I still don't know why they wouldn't put Illuminor at left and Bo at right, but I guess now Bo's your left tackle, and we'll see what how he can manage against a much better Kansas City Chiefs defensive line. So I think people thought that the Commanders' defensive line was better than the Cowboys' defensive line. I mean, Cowboys just went out after the game and signed defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. So it's obvious that they're looking to get a little bit more pressure up on the defensive front. Cowboys' defensive front, not as good as the Commanders' defensive front. Neither of them, I would think, are as good as the Kansas City Chiefs' defensive front. So this will be a humongous test for Bo. And I think everyone agrees you don't really ever have to see James Hudson again. You cut him. I don't think anyone's really going to bat an eye. You just got to move on from him. Make a spot for someone who just has the wherewithal, dude. I mean, and to see him losing his shit on the sidelines, it's like, are you kidding me right now, dude? Are you high? How are you not seeing why you're being pulled? You set a record, dude. We haven't seen this in this century. We have not seen this kind of performance on 2 drives. Or on 1 drive. I don't even know how many drives he played. It was 1 or 2. That opening drive was 16 plays for 60 yards in just under 9 minutes. And you can guess what the outcome was. Field goal. We crossed midfield 3 times on that drive. Russ had 95 passing yards. Justin Pennick tweeted, 8.5-minute drive results in 3 points. What else is new? James Hudson is a war criminal. Thought that was a great way to sum it up. The Football Grump, co-host of Giants Nation with Bobby Skinner, said, I'm not on Twitter much in game for drive after drive comments, but holy shit, I didn't think it would be possible to look decent and horrendous simultaneously. The Harvey Dent of football drives, which I really appreciated as a fan of the Batman. So Bo comes in, and we're like, well, Bo must look like absolute dog doo-doo for them not to start him over Hudson, but then to throw him in at left tackle is like they're just throwing him to the wolves. They're throwing him right into the fire. Like, how is this possible? How is Illuminor not as good as Bo on the left tackle side? And I guess they were right. He ended up playing 51 offensive snaps, including 37 pass blocks, and surrendered just 2 total pressures and 0 sacks. Again, it's against a Cowboys defensive front that no longer has Micah Parsons, that got, Kenny Clark back in the trade from the Packers. But, you have some names along that front, but none that are really moving the needle that much. Not exactly considered shutdown. But still, very promising debut for him. And you cannot remove him from the lineup now. You cannot put Hudson back in. At K60 said Marcus Bowe needs to be a starter somewhere along the line, even when Andrew Thomas gets back. Absolutely. That'll be key. When that happens, who the fuck knows? But if Andrew Thomas ever gets back this season, you now have Marcus Bowe could be your right tackle, and you can finally put Illuminor at the position you wanted to put him from day one since signing him at right guard. Your line is substantially better, and now you just have to hope that John Michael Schmitz takes the next step. I mean, how many times do we have to say that before it comes true? We're hoping it'll be the millionth. And then John Runyon needs to play up to his fucking contract, which he hasn't done yet. So Gridiron Media said, so Marcus Bowe had a great summer and earned the right to start with Andrew Thomas not available. Instead, the Giants start James Hudson because he's a veteran and on his contract. Yeah. James Hudson is a disaster. Marcus Bowe played well yesterday. Play the guys who earn it. I agree. We come out, drive one, opening drive against the Chiefs in primetime. James Hudson's at left tackle. If you're John Mara and you're sitting there and you're going, what the fuck is, I mean, I don't know what more you need to see at that point. Marshall Green at Marshall Green _ on X said, here are the Giants offensive line pro football focus grades for against the Cowboys. Marcus Bowe had a 59.3, which was actually second best amongst the starting five. Again, if you are a John Runyon, if you're a JMS, if you're a Greg Van Roten, two of those three are veterans. One's an older young player, and you see that this guy came off the bench. It was, I guess, essentially a third string tackle is what the Giants were telling us. Third string tackle. He outperformed you. So I don't know. Maybe take that as a challenge. Show some grit, some competitive spirit. So yeah, Marcus Bowe, 59.3 grade, only allowed 2 pressures, like we said. John Runyon had a 54.1 with 3 pressures. John Michael Schmitz Jr., again, 43.6, 0 pressures. Greg Van Roten, GVR, 51.7, 3 pressures. And Jermaine Illuminor, 65.7, 1 pressure. Now, the other thing that we have to consider is that when AT comes back, if that's, again, it's a big if, you put Bowe at right tackle, you put Illuminor at right guard. I think that you should put GVR at center and sit John Michael Schmitz and be like, you know what? Maybe observe. Here's a clipboard and a pen. Would you like a different colored pen? Oh, okay. And then we also have James Hudson's PFF grade. He had a PFF grade of 17.2. Oh my God. And Evan Neal didn't dress, just so we're clear. Evan Neal is worse than James Hudson and your third string tackle and your backup guards. He's now amongst your worst. Like, you have so many linemen and your number 1 pick can't even dress. Whew. Which leads me to believe that there's probably something more going on with this. There's just got to be like this lingering thing that they don't want to put on an injury report, maybe. Otherwise, like, what's your answer? I mean, you pump this guy up saying he's looking great, he's doing good reps and looking good in preseason in the guard, blah blah blah, and then nope. You know, you don't have to. No. Why is your uniform not in your locker? Let me pull you aside for a sec. Giants have at one point the Giants ran 23 of 26. The first 26 plays in the game, Giants ran 23 of them. And we only had 6 points after those 23 plays. Again, a large part of that due to Hudson. Another large part of that due to the fact that we get inside the 20-yard line and we forget how to function. Just our body, our brains, like, glitch out. We're so bad in the red zone. It's the dead zone. For the Connor Hughes of the world who just don't understand football or don't follow the teams that they're paid to cover, after last week I said that we were sold a batch of goods, that we were told we were going to have more explosive plays, and in week 1 against the Commanders, it was anything but. It was dull, lifeless, boring, etc. That all went away in week 2 because, I mean, it was a thing of beauty watching these deep passes that we have not seen, I will say, since maybe DJ rookie year. say mid 2010s Eli Manning, like 2015, 2014. Those 2 seasons, I feel like he definitely unleashed the beast and uncorked it on a few, more than a few. And then 2016 was just, and 2017 was just more the same, like short bullshit. 2018 though, towards the end of the season, I think we definitely saw more of Eli letting her rip, but it's been a while. We have not seen especially these many deep balls and explosive plays. So last season, the Giants finished 2024 with only 46 plays of 20 yards or more. Only the Dolphins and Patriots finished with fewer. Dolphins, that's a mind-blowing stat for the Dolphins. Holy shit, what a fall from grace for Mike McDaniel and Tyreek and Tua and that offense. I mean, this is an offense where they put up 70 on the Broncos, and everyone's like, we might have to give them consideration for being, and it's just been all downhill from there. All downhill from there. In the past 2 seasons combined, the Giants' 78 completions of 20 or more yards also ranks 3rd fewest in the National Football League. Again, that's a combination of not calling the right plays, but not being able to execute on schemes or plays that are deeper routes down the field. And that is because of a shitty offensive line. Do you see a pattern? Giants had 8 plays of 20 or more yards, 7 of which were passing in week 2 versus Dallas. And so the Giants are tied for 2nd in the NFL in both plays and completions of 20 or more yards through 2 weeks. What a difference a week makes, my guy. Holy crap. Everyone wanted to run Russ out of town after last week, saying he doesn't have it anymore. And then he just bounced right back and put on a show for the ages. You know, the running game, not quite where I thought it could be or should be or would be. Cam Scatterbo appears to be RB1 now. That was short-lived. Really didn't think that he would just take over the workload this quick in the season. He carried the ball 11 times for 45 yards and scored the first touchdown of his career, averaged 3.18 yards after contact per attempt, according to Pro Football Focus, while forcing 3 missed tackles. He also had 2 catches for 14 yards. Yeah, this dude scares me when he runs. Oh my God, dude. Every single run you can hear the crack of the helmets and the pads, and it's like, I think someone tweeted like he's running like he wants to get CTE, and I'm here for it. It's just like, yeah, this guy does not shy away from contact whatsoever, and it is fun to watch. But again, like I said last week, I don't know how long of a career you can make out of that. I mean, when it's almost every goddamn carry. You know, I know there are plenty of physical backs out there who have had long careers, but not like this. I mean, this is like every time he touches the ball, it's just crack, 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 crack. You know, he won the Angry Run Scepter last week from Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football, which you had to know was coming. It's like, and he wasted no time. I mean, like, what? Cam had like 3 touches in week 1, but like the one touch he had, you know, he had the amazing block, comes up and cracks the oncoming blitzer and takes him out of the play. And then another one, he catches a ball and just refuses to go down. The 3.18 yards after contact per attempt is stunning to see. So Tyrone Tracy was like the 3rd running back to get a carry in that order. It was Scatterbo, then the Singletary got a carry, then Tracy gets the carry. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, they're punishing him because it came out after the game last week that he called out the coaching staff for the play calling, or the play calling was called out. And so it's like, this is them punishing him. And of course, Dable gets asked that in the post game, and he's like, oh, no. You know, I think on kickoffs, like he immediately goes to Tracy returning kickoffs, and it's like, I think he gives us a better probability of success than maybe a Wandale, and maybe less likely to get hurt returning a kick than Wandale. And they just signed Xavier Gibson, who's like the return specialist that was waived or cut by the Jets, and he was inactive for this game. But so I would imagine Gibson's like the guy moving forward. But Dable kept on talking about kickoffs and kickoff returns, and I'm just like, no, your running back, like your starting running back from last year, who you gave the starting job because he played so well is now not starting and not getting snaps because he doesn't like your play calling, which he's not wrong. Like, I disagree with the move of punishing him, and Dable can deny it up and down all he wants, but it's a punishment move. That's a disciplinary action. I don't agree with it. It's just inconsistent across the board for this organization in terms of the way they discipline players and the way that they, handle players. And I know every player is their own man, but like, I just think I disagree with it. I understand, you don't want things to get out of hand this early and have players start, rattling off like really awful comments that might chip away at the foundation of the blah blah. No, dude, there is no foundation. There's no confidence in this organization regime. They saw it with what was it, Tate Crowder? He made a comment on Twitter or something like that, and they cut him the next day. So it's like there is this kind of zero tolerance policy for certain players. I just think it's weird that they would punish him for that. And he's still got juice. He's still a good player. We're just gonna. I don't know. I mean, I thought, to me it was like Scadaboo needs snaps, but I don't want to take him away from Tracy. Why not come up with a package where it's Tracy used to be a receiver. I know he's had his issues catching the ball, but like split him out, and then you have Scadaboo as the sole back. Split Scadaboo out and have Tracy in the backfield. Have them both in the backfield. Have them both split out. So it's like these are guys that are going to get you extra yards more so than, Wandale. The tough yards, that is. Giants totaled just 231 yards in week 1, but eclipsed that mark by halftime against the Cowboys. They more than doubled their offensive output from week 1, totaling 506 yards, which is really good to see, and we still got the L. The 37 points were the third highest total of the Dable area. I don't even want to know about Dable's area. Okay. Good luck finding it. The 37 points were the third highest total of the Dable era since 2022 and could have been more. And it's a fact. The way that we're moving the ball on the first couple of drives, it just feels like, how do you not punch it in? Russell Wilson's 153 yards in the first quarter might have been the most in his career. I didn't confirm that, but I think they might have mentioned it on the broadcast. The 235 yards in the first half were the most by a Giants quarterback since Eli Manning had 236 against the Eagles on November 25th, 2018. Wilson completed 30 of 41 passes for not a career high, 450 yards. I think a lot of people were throwing it around. It was not a career high. It was the second most in his career for a single game. You might be thinking, wow, this is like an amazing game from Russ. It's got to be in his top 10. Other than yards, he has a lot of games. People forget. This guy is a 9, 10-time Pro Bowler. That doesn't happen by accident. He has a lot of really great games in his career, dude. This was his 201st start, and he did not hit top 10 on a lot of these different stats from this game, which is crazy because it's like you look at it and you're like, how can you do any better than that? 30 of 41 for 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Oh, the 1 pick that sealed our fate. And good enough for a 123 passer rating. I think if you nix the pick and then you don't have that inconceivable fumble in overtime, then that rating goes way up. It goes up even higher, but I still don't think it'll beat a lot of his other games. Just go do yourself a favor. Go on Pro Football Reference, go to his page, and just look at his seasons and his single game records. It's crazy. So, yes, the 450 passing yards, second most in his career, was tied for the fourth highest total in franchise history. Eli Manning also threw for that total at Dallas in the 2013 season opener, which we lost. The all-time record is Phil Simms with 513 passing yards, I want to say, against the Bengals in 84 or 85. That was a loss. I don't know what the other one is, but I'm going to assume it's a loss, which just sucks. It just sucks. As a quarterback, to go out there and throw for 400-plus yards, 500-plus yards, and lose just sucks. It's like you run for that much in a game. I can't imagine how you'd lose that game, but you throw for 500, 400, you lose. It just ain't right. On throws of 20 yards, air yards or more, where the ball travels 20 or more air yards, Russ was 7 of 11 for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, my guy. 264 deep pass yards. It's the most of any quarterback in a single game since 2016, so 9 years. And he now has 66 deep pass touchdowns since 2018. That's the most in the NFL. So my man has still got it. Wish he had it last week. Game would have been a little bit differently. I don't know that we would have won, but it would have been closer. NFL on CBS tweeted this out, but I think it's a joke, and I don't want to repeat it, but I feel like NFL and CBS needs to be called out for this. Russell Wilson became the first Giants quarterback with 400 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 0 interceptions in a single game in 40 years. That's just straight up incorrect, but damn, it's a great stat to rattle off. Justin Pennick said Russell Wilson had an 88th percentile EPA, and Dak Prescott had a 52nd percentile EPA. Russ's CPOE, so I want to say completed passes over expectancy, was in the 98th percentile. After the game, Wilson said, quote, "I've been a part of a lot of crazy games. I don't know if I've ever been part of one that crazy with that much grit." This guy has started 200 friggin' football games in his life, playing the Super Bowl twice. I don't know if I've ever been part of that one crazy. Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. I think a lot of media and reporters, at least the local reporters, were all up in arms about the fact that the Giants were leaking that there was a Jackson Dart package to the national media and not the local media, and when in terms of week 1 against the Commanders, and week 2 we got to see the Jackson Dart package made to be this really crazy thing, and it's like, no. Yeah, after seeing what it was, it's like, oh, okay. I completely understand why they were thinking about this in week 1. I completely understand why this is not just a week 2 thing. This is probably going to be a thing the whole season, barring Wilson getting benched or hurt. This is how we're going to see Jackson Dart this year, as an option threat. What I was hoping for is, he comes in and 12:51 left in the game. Cowboys up 20-16. We're on the Dallas's 25. And, he in the option, he hands the ball off to Scadaboo, and Scadaboo straight up the middle for 24 yards down to the goal line. And then, of course, he punches it in for the touchdown and 3-point lead. The next time we see him, it's after the Cowboys took back the lead. He ended up handing the ball off to Tracy on a first down on second and short. And then they kept him in again. Did they keep him in, or did they bring him back in for another third and short or second and short? They might have just left him in. I forget the sequence there, but I think on the third snap that he had, he decided to keep it, and of course lost his footing and lost 3 yards. But my God, third time's a charm. I was really hoping he would just fake the handoff, drop back, deep throw. I was like, they're setting this up perfectly, because everyone thinks that he's in to run the ball, hands it off. Would have been nice to just take a fake and then launch that mother. But nope. Wan'Dale Robinson, I've given him the most manure of any Giants player for a very long time. And I keep saying it's not his fault that he only has so much control over his height, right? He can't just grow taller. But I also put a lot of the hate on, it was mostly related to the coaching staff for not scheming and game planning in a way that would make me feel better about Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, prior to this game, was synonymous with 1 yard pass, 2 yard pass, under 5 yards. I mean, how many times do we have to say it? He had 90 plus catches last year and like barely 700 yards, like 700 yards on 90 plus catches. I mean, the guy, I think he averaged like 5.5 yards. It's just boring, awful, stinky football. And so that's why I was giving, and I literally have had him on my fantasy football team for the past 3 years. He was my keeper again this year because I was like, I mean, Jesus Christ, I have to give up like what, a 14th rounder, an 11th rounder. Like, fine, I'll take Wandale, who I had as my wide receiver 3, who apparently is wide receiver 2 on this team because the coaching staff hates Darius Slayton, but yet gives him $12 million a year and the C on his chest. Okay. So I gave Wandale a lot of hate. And I was like, he's the face of our offensive failures because A, DJ's not here anymore, but B, of this reason. You have not called any routes where he is going to be open down the field. I got mad on the wheel route last week when it's like if any other receiver is running that, they catch it on the fly, on the run, and it's a big gain, possibly touchdown. Instead, he just falls because he has to jump and dive and whatever. I got mad that they're throwing a deep shot down the right side in week 1 outside the numbers because I was like, on balls like that, the defender has the advantage 10 times out of 10 because they're not 5'7", 160, whatever. I went so far as to drop Wandale Robinson from my fantasy football team because I was like, I need to pick up a defense. That's where I'm at with him. I was like, this is what it is. He doesn't score touchdowns. He's not running deep routes. They're not going to throw it to him deep. They can't complete it to him deep. Like, what's the point of holding on to any of these hopes? Like, I need to make some moves on my roster anyway. I'll just drop him. And of course, he just posted his personal best 142 receiving yards on 8 catches. That's a 17.8 yard average. And he also scored a touchdown. 50-yard touchdown catch was the longest reception of his career. I don't know if that was the touchdown or not. There was a 50-yarder down the middle. There was another one that was on the seam. So you might be saying, Neil, you feel like a bit of a hypocrite that you're saying we shouldn't be throwing deep to him, and then we threw deep to him twice, and it worked out both times, including a sixer, a tutty. I'm here to tell you, well, there's a little bit of a difference between running him outside the numbers, where it's one-on-one with a defender, and you probably have help over the top with a safety. This was mostly a zone man coverage look, and he was down the middle inside the numbers or along the seam. Well, how is that different? Well, I think ball has to travel farther when you throw outside the numbers, one. So you give the defense more of an opportunity to bounce back, recover, and get back to the ball. I'm not opposed to throwing to him deep, just not outside the numbers. This is exactly what they needed to do, and they did it. And it's like, let's not get amnesia now. Let's not all of a sudden just forget everything and get neuralized, dude. Let's actually remember this, put it in the memory bank, lock and key, and let's go back to it. And I think my tweet said as much. Is like, teams are so accustomed to this guy hanging out the line of scrimmage. I mean, literally, the reason why I dropped him is because I looked on Yahoo. Because I was, fiddling with my lineups in fantasy football. I'm fiddling with my lineups. And I'm looking at all the latest news and updates or whatever. And the one write-up was like a PPR scam. They called Wandale Robinson a PPR scam. And that just ignited everything within me to drop him. I was just like, I can do better. And I think opposing defenses had that same kind of outlook or perspective, opinion on Wandale Robinson. This dude hangs out the line of scrimmage. Sure, he'll get the catch. Who gives a shit? Because he's going to go for 2-3 yards, 5 maximum. Like, it's just what it is. The way the play is designed, you're not going to get more than fucking 5 yards on this goddamn play. And, the booth is saying, Greg Olson's saying, oh, Wandale's like the go-to guy on third down. He's their guy, their specialist on third down. And I'm thinking to myself, you're saying it like it's a good thing. It's not a good thing because 9 times out of 10, when it's third and insert number here, you just have to put a -1 next to that number that you insert. And that's how far Wandale will run, and that's how far he'll get. He's not going to catch the ball and get the first down when he runs short of the sticks. And my God, does he run short of the sticks every freaking time. Kind of got away with it in week 1 where it's like he makes the catch and immediately goes up north, which is great. That must have been one of the few rare coaching tips and applications that actually came to fruition and works. But that must have been going through the heads of the opposing defenses. Like, he's just all short routes. And so you can see when he just keeps going down the field along the seam, the guy who's covering him is like, oh shit, lets him get him past him because he's like, Wandale's going deep. And then you have the safety coming over and being like, all right, he's gonna throttle down and turn this into a dig or a curl, or like he's not going deep. Like both of them had to have thought that, and he slips past them and gets the big score. So the big score, and there was another big one that got him down into the dead zone, as we like to call it around these parts. El Jefe on X said, one of the most fun parts of being a Giants fan is watching your team consistently throw short of the sticks on third down. Before this game, it's sickening that keeps happening. That, like, I feel like on the majority of other teams, they would be like, don't do that. Don't do that and don't throw that. We're going to run this. It's like in semi-pro when Woody Harrelson is like, we're going to run this play. This play is money, and it'll work every time we run it, but we have to get it down pat. Perfect. We're going to run it until we throw up. And that's when Will Ferrell reveals he can't throw up. It's just one of those things. So he gets hit in the duodenum by Woody Harrelson. That's what they should do with these third down situations in practice. It's 3rd and 5. If you go 4 yards and catch the ball a yard before the sticks, bring back Joe Judge and have them run laps. You gotta hammer this home. This is where it's like this new school style of coaching that I'm not totally down with. It's like, I cannot imagine Bill Parcells. I was thinking about this during the game when the James Hudson shit was going down. Can you imagine Bill Parcells putting up with that shit? Like, Bill Parcells, after the second penalty, would be like, pull his ass off the field. I think Tom Coughlin would have had a little bit longer leash, especially towards the end of his coaching career with the Giants. If this were 2004, first year one Tom Coughlin, I think he might have pulled him after 2 of the penalties. Definitely after the third one. There's no question that Coughlin would have pulled him regardless of where he was in his career. And Dable didn't have the authority to pull him. Okay. But the other part would be trying to picture Bill Parcells handing an offensive coordinator's ass to them while simultaneously berating the player running short of the sticks on third down. That's how Parcells would have handled that. Like, and we're going to do this in practice until your friggin' eyes bleed. And I would have, Coughlin's known as the general, disciplined. If you're 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late, that kind of mentality. I don't know. Because he did allow it to happen towards the end there in 13, 14, and 15. But Jesus Christ, how have you not fixed that? What the fuck? Too many times you're throwing to Wandale Robinson on 3rd and whatever. He's not running to the sticks. He's catching it, and he's not getting to the first down marker. So that's why, Wandale Robinson, third down expert, their go-to guy. And it's like, that's not good. That's not a good thing. Steve Smith was, like, in my eyes, the perfect 2007 Steve Smith was the perfect third down guy. It was like 3rd and whatever, he's running it at the marker, 1 yard beyond the marker, getting the first down 10 out of 10 times. It got to the point where it's like everyone in the room that I was watching the games with would call it and be like, Steve Smith, first down. Boop. Eli drops back. Steve Smith, first down. It's like not the same with Wandale. I don't want to see any Giants do poorly. But it's like, what have you done for me lately? What have you shown me? This shows me that Wandale Robinson has value and should be a part of the future, because when you call plays like this to him that are down the field that allow him to get an open space and slip past defenders or coverage or whatever and pick up chunk yards, why would I not want that on my team? What I don't want on my team is someone that does these bubble screen bullshit, flats, hitches that are short of the first down marker. He catches it. He gets another catch. Hooray. 7 catches, 40 yards. It's just like, I don't want to see those stat lines anymore. So to have him have a personal best in yardage, to see him score, it's like, it gives me hope for his future. I still don't think he should be our wide receiver 2. I'm flabbergasted and just in awe of how we have fucked up Darius Slayton to the point now where precedence has shown you that when Giants players go other places, they do significantly better. So I fully expect Darius Slayton to either get traded or run out his contract, go somewhere else, and have a 1,000-yard season with 10 touchdowns. I just know that's going to happen because this coaching staff just doesn't work for them. They just cannot figure it out. So why did I hate Wan'Dale for so long? Why have I been down on him for so long? Like, it's not a personal thing. It's strictly business. And here's the real bottom line. Before this week 2 game against the Cowboys, Robinson had 3 deep catches in his career. Started in 2022, 2023, 2024. That's 3 full seasons and a week this year. 3 deep catches. And for a team that has not been able to throw the ball deep, in my head, I'm like, and Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be the guy to do that? And it turns out, yeah, he can do that. You just got to figure out the best way to do it. Outside the numbers? No. Inside the numbers? Yes. I mean, also the fact that Russell Wilson is supposedly 6 foot when everyone's like, he's more like 5'10". One of the bigger knocks on Russell is he's not tall enough to see the middle of the field. And so he can't throw the middle because he can't see the middle. And then you have him thrown to a guy like Wan'Dale who's 5'7". You can start to see how that might not pan out. But they were able to do it. They were able to do it in this game. And it's so good to see, dude. Malik Neighbors finished with 9 catches for 167 yards, the second most of his career, and 2 touchdowns. First touchdown was a good throw by Russ. I don't know that many receivers come down with that ball, but Malik Neighbors has both the body control on the hands and the ups to get up there, contort and twist his body back on the back shoulder and make that catch for the touchdown. Just an amazing catch. And then he had the deep, which should have been the game winner. Just full stop. Should have been the game winner. Russ uncorks one, moonball. Malik has 2 guys on him, but he's got a step or 2. He has a defender that's just like intentionally trying to blind him. Like, has the guy's hand is like over Malik Neighbors' eyes, like, peekaboo, I see you. And like grabbing at his head to the point where, like, I don't know how anyone can keep. And it's a testament, and other people have said this, it's a testament to how accurate that fucking deep ball was. You want to talk about pinpoint precision? You want to talk about an actual dime? That was so on the money. Like, and you would fully understand if Malik Neighbors dropped that, because how do you keep track of a ball when you have a guy batting your head around and covering your eyes? So incredibly athletic play by Malik Neighbors, but Russell Wilson has still got it. Just got to stay healthy. Just got to keep the arm healthy. And I think you're going to see more exciting football this year. Will it be winning football? Probably not. We can't win. We cannot win. Cannot figure it out. But at least you'll be seeing more exciting offensive football. Now, I don't see this happening every week, but the hope coming into this season was that it'll be more like week 2 and less like week 1. So if we can just be like more like week 2 and less like week 1, you won't have as many really angry fans or dispassionate or disengaged fans saying that they won't tune into games or go to games or don't feel like rooting for the team anymore because it's hopeless. Like, this, at least just give us a chance. Just make us believe a little bit that we have a chance every game. And if we lose every game, it's okay because we feel good about how we're playing, at least on offense. The pass that should have been the game winner from Wilson to Neighbors with 25 ticks on the clock, according to Doug Analytics, this pass was given a 15.7% chance to be completed per Next Gen Stats, the 5th most improbable catch so far this season, which feels high. Even 15.7% feels high. If you said to me before that play, listen, Russ is going to drop back and just put it on Malik Neighbors in the end zone, I'd be like, say what now? And then give it a 15.7% chance, I would have given you all my money that would not have happened. But even then, I was just like, whoa, 15.7. That's almost 1 in 5? 1 in 5 chance? So I thought that would be a lot lower, but 15.7. Dang. ML Football on X said Giants wide receiver Malik Neighbors now holds the record for the most catches in NFL history of any player ever in their first 17 games. I feel like Puka Nakua might have something to say about that. Malik has 123 receptions, passing Odell Beckham Jr., who had 122 catches. Gotcha. WBG84 on X said Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson became the first pair of Giants receivers with 140 or more receiving yards and one or more receiving touchdowns each in the same game since Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks on September 16th, 2012 versus the Buccaneers. I vividly remember where I was for that game. And I'm not... Oh, Green Rock. I remember what I was doing while watching the game in the bar. The name of the bar escaped me. Okay, let's get that straight. So I vividly remember what happened inside the bar. Forgot it was called Green Rock. It's Green Rock. It's a shit show. I was dancing. Oh, like Gangnam Style was the soup du jour at that moment. Oppa Gangnam Style. And it had the dance that went along with it. And so, I mean, Eli just chucking and slinging deep balls to Cruz and Nicks in that game. And it was a shootout, and the Giants won. And I did the Oppa Gangnam Style dance while standing on the bench of the bar. So security shut that down real quick. But I was like, I don't know. Those people are throwing napkins, dude. That's wasteful. Despite all the yards, the Giants did struggle again in the red zone as they couldn't find the end zone on 4 of their 5 drives inside the 20. Yuck. And then what would have been a game for the ages for Russell Wilson and in Giants franchise history was tainted by his overtime performance in which, tried to pull the Ben Roethlisberger pump fake that only Ben Roethlisberger has been able to master, where it's like how many cameras has he faked out in his lifetime with that pump fake, and Russ tried it and fumbled. Lateral backwards, so we lost big time yards on that. And then I guess it was a miscommunication, which is the only sensible explanation for what happened, on the Giants' last drive in overtime, where he just on a wing and a prayer, just was like, let go and let God. Just tossed it as far as he could down the field right to a Cowboys defender. Malik Neighbors was not anywhere in the neighborhood for that. So not a great overtime performance. And I really do think, it's in seeing his reaction, the go-ahead touchdown towards the end of regulation to Neighbors, like he essentially, that was it for him. He was like, the game's over. I think mentally he was like, all right, game over. And then OT must have caught him off guard, like, shit, I have to play more football? What? But you had to throw. Can't do that again. Weirdly enough, after one of the, you want to talk about a very lengthy career, I looked up where last week's performance, week 1 against the Commanders, clocked in terms of all-time games ranked for Wilson, and it was really bottom 10. 17-37, under 200 yards, 40 some odd passer rating. Like, it was one of the 10 worst games he's ever played as a professional. So, understandably, that's going to get people all riled up about Jackson Dart and this package. And, they had no confidence coming in. Dart looks so good in preseason. And it's like, I don't know, man. Yeah, we might have something in Jackson Dart, which I really hope everyone's hoping is the case. But I don't know. Do you see Dart doing what Wilson did in that game? I don't know. Who could tell? Who could tell? And now people are talking about we should trade Russell Wilson to the Bengals. Bengals, or who was the other team that just had a quarterback go down? The Niners, or I guess J.J. McCarthy is now down. Like, we're 0-2. We're not going to make the playoffs. You're not going to get a better time to sell on Russ than now when he just had that game. It's like, I'm not totally disagreeing with you. I just, in terms of a reality, that's just not a reality. It's strictly fantasy, and damn, it's a sexy fantasy. Don't get me wrong, because you could probably get something back for it that's pretty neat that you can use for a fucking offensive lineman. So it's just not it's not a reality. But would you believe me if I told you Russell Wilson currently leads the NFL in passing yards? And Malik Neighbors currently leads the NFL in receiving yards, and we're 0-2. And someone else pointed out, you can't make this up. Your currently NFL leaders in passing yards are number 1, Russell Wilson, number 2, Daniel Jones. So offensively, much better game. One of the best games we've seen since, I guess you could say the Colts game last season, even though I don't even know if I would count that, just because it's I don't think the Colts gave a fuck, which is weird because I think they were in the playoff hunt. Before that, I don't know, dude. It's been a while. This looks more like what we did I mean, way better than what we did in the preseason, but along those lines, if we can score 30 points a game, you would think you would win most of those games. But, just ask Joe Burrow how that turned out last year. Guy was putting up several 30-plus point games and still was losing because his defense stinks. Offense looks like maybe they have figured some stuff out. Cowboys, again, not the best defense, have lost a lot of key personnel. So I think it's going to be a different story against the Chiefs. But defensively, holy fuck. I see there's some people out there that are defending this defense, and I honestly don't think they cannot be defending the defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. I don't think that's the case. I think the players themselves, there's no arguing. We really like what we see in terms of personnel on the defensive side of the ball if they play at their best and if they have the right play call, if they have the right scheme, which Shane Bowen has only been able to figure out on a handful of drives over the 1+ year that he's been with this team. More times than not, we're pointing at Shane Bowen and we're saying, what are you doing, dude? Darius Muasau gets hurt early in the game, and that led everyone to start saying, oh, now Mike can get way more snaps as the off-ball linebacker. Instead, Giants coaching staff surprises you again. They put Brian Burns as the off-ball linebacker because linebacker Chris Board, who's primarily a special teams player, was out with a chest injury. Cordell Flott seemingly cemented his starting spot at cornerback opposite Paulson Adebo. Broke up 2 passes, made a critical play at the end of the first half, keeping Jake Ferguson inbounds while the clock would wind down. That was huge because the Cowboys ended up not getting any points out of that, even though they were in our territory. Had the false start that ended up running off the remainder of the clock. So again, we escaped points at the end of the first half again, just like we had in week 1. Big Blue Film Room said Deonte Banks posted his second worst defensive PFF grade for the Giants on Sunday, 39.1. Again, I don't know. Joe Shane has shown that he just does not want to trade players. I think he has this philosophy that it really ruins the clubhouse, sends the wrong message, blah, 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 blah. But I think about all the players that he could have traded, that we could have gotten some back on that. It's just a numbers game. One of those should pan out in some way. It should. If you're good at your job, which, jury's out. I personally think he's guilty of malpractice. But Deonte Banks is... like I said last week, he should forfeit the number 2. Give to Jackson Dart. Give Gillen back the number 6. And then Deonte Banks can take 40, 37, I think is available. Trey Hawkins got waived. So yeah, Deonte Banks, he had the pass interference call against CeeDee Lamb on that wild play. There was a million flags. I don't know. I just don't see him making it through his rookie contract, but I just don't think Shane will trade him either. He'll just enter the Jalen Hyatt, Evan Neal zone, where it's like all these former draft picks who are just in street clothes or in uniform who just do not get on the field and play an actual snap. Nickel, Drew Phillips, who a lot of people are saying could be a Pro Bowler this year, had a kind of up and down game. He notched the first Giants takeaway this season, first interception of his career. That can't be right. But he also had a pretty bad big pass interference call go against him. That was kind of iffy. He hit a couple of fouls on him in drives that either extended or gave the Cowboys a first down. So it was, he gets the personal foul penalty against them for body slamming CeeDee Lamb. To me, it's like you don't want to let CeeDee Lamb go. Drew Phillips is one of the surest, if not the surest tackler on the team. We know that. He's proven it time and time again. But you definitely don't want to let CeeDee Lamb slip through your fingers. And there was the personal stuff that came out before the game that it definitely incentivized him being a little more than aggressive there. Once you pick the guy up, are you just supposed to hold him there? I don't know. But they got to call it. It's a body slam type thing. I mean, again, if this is 86, 97, 08, not getting called. It's just we're in a softer league. They're trying to avoid injuries. They're going to try and stop these injuries. And so they feel like this will do it. And instead, it's really, really murdering defenses that are aggressive and assertive. I mean, it's 15 yards every freaking time. Roughing the passer, 15. Unnecessary roughness, 15. It's just like, I saw someone suggest that we should really start to think about these roughing the passer penalties not being 15 yards and being 5 yards. It should be equal to almost equal distance from where the quarterback was hit. So you have a 5-step drop, you're 7 yards deep, you get hit. It's roughing the passer, their version of roughing the passer, where like you just do a little chest bump on the guy after the play, or your helmet happens to come in touch the other guy's helmet, even though you didn't. It's not a collision by any means. Or you try and you hit him, quarterback goes flying, you try not to land on him. Why is that 15 yards? It's like you're obviously not. If you're I used to think it's like, are you trying to hurt the quarterback or are you trying to pull up? And a lot of these times you see these, at least with the 3 or 4 that happened against the Giants on Sunday, it was like, they're not, what? They're not, that's not roughing the passer, dude. I don't know. I feel like it should be a severity thing. And a lot of those times it's like 15 yards, automatic first down. Jesus. 5 yards. Maximum 10 yards if you want to compromise, and not an automatic first down. Monte Cristo on X said that relayed the NFL passer rating that Dak Prescott against each member of our secondary. Tyler Nubin led the way with a 70.1 passer rating. I had released a video about the draft classes, about reviewing Shane's draft classes, and Tyler Nubin, it was like he's the best safety of that class where he was drafted, but is he okay to good? Yes, but we thought we were getting it would be nice to have a ball hawk who could actually take the ball away, punch the ball out, intercept the ball. Someone else on X wrote that he had a really bad game, and it's like, well, this looks pretty decent. So I don't know. He's playing a very quiet game. I don't necessarily know that you hear his name get called a lot, but maybe it is just a fact of he's just consistently playing well, but he's also not playing well enough for him to actually stand out and get the kind of recognition that a lot of people think that he should. Cordell Flott was next, 79.9 quarterback rating allowed, which going up against a Pickens or CeeDee Lamb and putting up that kind of number is impressive, really impressive. So I kind of wrote him off after his first season. I was like, I don't see him really, if we have to bring in guys off the street and we're signing guys that have been out of the league and, practice squad elevations, and Flott's not getting the snaps that someone who is a draft pick should get, it kind of wrote him off, and then he's just slowly been improving. The fact that Trey Hawkins was named starter before him in 2023, it's like, what? Okay. 2024, it's like he's getting more playing time and showing more promise as the season goes on. So, that's a case of development, time, letting the player develop and giving them time, which, it's a fine line. Pulling the hook and pulling the plug on someone and giving up on them, like a Deontay Banks. It sounds hypocritical. We gave Flott some time, he came around. Do we need to give Banks some time? You got to see some kind of improvement this year, and this is not an improvement for him. Andrew Phillips allowed an 85.1 QB rating. Again, for the most part, I think he played well. Obviously comes up with the big pick, but had some pretty brutal penalties that cost us on drives that would have ended. Javon Holland allowed 115.3 QB rating, which, ugh. The early returns in Javon Holland through two games are not great. And it's like, I think there were some people that were not high on that signing when it happened, saying like, he's washed or not the same player he was as he was early in his career. I mean, he's only a fifth-year guy, so it's not like, you would like to see more from him. I know that Bobby Okereke got off to a slow start in 2023. His first year joining the team as a big free agent signing. And then towards the middle end of the season really came on strong and was basically a Pro Bowl snub. I guess it's a matter of time with Javon Holland to figure it out and get in the groove. Deonte Banks, 118.8 QB rating allowed. Ooh, and you're not going, in the majority of snaps, you're not going up against the 1 or the 2. You're going against the 3. Because physically, you feel like he has all the assets, all the tools. It's just an attitude thing. It really is an attitude thing. So I think he wants out. And then Paulson Adebo, the guy that you signed to be your CB1, who you thought would provide a little bit more stability to that position and, at least reduce some of the worry that you have there. 148.4 QB rating allowed. Damn near perfect. So I've seen some people say that, well, there will be games like this. He's not a, Darrelle Revis or even a Janoris Jenkins. I mean, Janoris Jenkins could be was a really solid shutdown corner. It's like, it doesn't seem like Adebo is that guy every game. He might give that to you a quarter of the games, which is still great. But you're going to have games like this. Now, is this going to happen next week against the Chiefs? No, I don't think so. Because the Chiefs are just so banged up and missing so many guys. Worthy's out. Rashee Rice is out. So, the passing, the secondary should look better. But then again, it's like fucking Patrick Mahomes, dude. And Tyquan Thornton's a blazer, dude. Like I can see that as long as you take away Thornton on the deep ball, I don't know that they have a whole lot, and I think people are okay with just letting Mahomes throw short to Kelsey and just converge, as long as you take away the deep threat on Thornton, they do have Noah Gray. They do have, but yeah, I mean, they're depleted at receiver. So I would imagine the secondary has a bounce back game against the Chiefs, which is, I know, sounds out of this world, but you do think that they should have better success. Giants had 3 sacks in a Week 1 game for the first time since 2011 and followed it up with 3 more on Sunday in Week 2 against the Cowboys. Brian Burns had 2 in the opener. He notched his 3rd of the season. When they moved him to off-ball, linebacker came up and laid the pipe on that back out of the backfield on that swing pattern. So I don't know. It's like, weird, you would think, oh, Marcus Bowe at right tackle. Nope, I'm going to put him at left tackle. Oh, Abdul Carter off ball. Nope, Burns off ball. It's just, okay. Pause for thought. Kayvon Thibodeau and Elijah Garcia also got a sack. Elijah Garcia had a really nice bull rush on that sack in overtime. I believe it was in overtime. Nick Filato said that Kayvon Thibodeau was exceptional in Week 2. 5 pressures, 3 hurries, 1 sack, 5 stops in the run game, 4 tackles. He ended up with a PFF grade of 76.1. All across social media, all I see is people trying to defend Kayvon in a way that's just like, I don't think that's what, yes, you're going to have the idiots who say that he's a bust, quote unquote. What does a bust look like, though? Like a first-round pick that puts up Kayvon's numbers, I wouldn't consider a bust. It's just not playing up to that draft position. You thought you were getting a Micah Parsons. You didn't get a Micah Parsons. But you also didn't get this, I don't think he's a middle-of-the-road linebacker, like average linebacker. He's a good linebacker, edge rush. It's just being able to stay healthy, being up with a clutch play. We saw flashes his rookie season. And I think a lot of people are saying that Abdul Carter is already the better player. So why is Kayvon getting more snaps? I don't think Kayvon got more snaps in this game, but I could be wrong. According to Next Gen Stats, Abdul Carter finished the game with five pressures, including 2 quick pressures under 2.5 seconds. And that's impressive when you consider the fact that Dak Prescott got rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds on 25 of his 52 pass attempts. That's 48%. And Carter was double teamed on 16.7% of his rushes. So, to rush the passer 47 times, Burns had 51 pass rushes. Carter recorded 4 pressures, 3 hurries, and a stop in the game. Abdul Carter was the 3rd worst graded Giants defensive player yesterday at 44.8, missed tackle rate of 66.7%. So it's like a tale of two cities. What the fuck? I was like, that cannot be right, because you watch the game and it's like, if he's missing a tackle, it's certainly not in an open space one-on-one. It's not so egregious that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe he missed that tackle. And sure enough, Anthony Rivardo pointed out, but these tackles are being missed 5 yards in the backfield. So if he's shooting the gap and trying to disrupt the play, mission accomplished. That shouldn't be demerits. That shouldn't take away points from his PFF grade because he missed that tackle. He's disrupting the play and making it easier for someone to come up and make the tackle. So this is where the PFF grades can, numbers can lie. I know there's a whole program called Numbers Never Lie, but they can lie, and you can definitely manipulate the data and the numbers to work in your favor. It's not always the case, but it's not 100% foolproof that 48.8 grade when you're just doing this kind of binary tackle, no miss tackle. It's like, well, he missed the tackle, but it was he hit the guy 5 yards in the backfield, which slows him down, which allows someone to get the tackle for a 3-yard loss. So to me, it's like, if that missed tackle results in a positive play for the defense, why are you taking points away from the defender? I don't know. As Anthony mentions, it forces the running back off his path and into a cleanup tackle by another defender. It's intentional, and PFF never seems to recognize that. So it'd be interesting to hear if PFF has spoken about that or addressed that. Nick Filato on X said Dexter Lawrence was PFF's highest graded Giants defender at 87.0. And yet across the board, from a lot of fans who watched the game, they're like, where's Dexter Lawrence? Why haven't we heard Dexter Lawrence's name? So it's very weird that you can watch the game and be like, man, Abdul Carter is a menace. He's wreaking havoc out there. One of the worst grades. What? Is Dexter Lawrence on the field? What is happening? He hasn't had a sack all year. What's going on? Highest graded defender. So it's just, that's why you can't really live and die by PFF grades. They're nice here and there if you're trying to make a point, but they're not always like the best picture to paint. All 3 of Dexter Lawrence's pressures were hurries, and he recorded 3 stops. He's just getting double teamed a lot, which, I mean, is that like a news flash? Hasn't he always been double teamed once people figured out that he was a good player his rookie year? And like, shouldn't that free up your frickin' linebackers or your other defensive tackle or whatever? Guess not. New York Revival, a show I follow and appreciate very much. One of the better Giants content creators out there. Check him out. At New York Revival on X said, this combination of Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau has played 8 out of 65 snaps together week 2. That's just 12% of defensive snaps for Burns, Thibodeau, Carter, and Dexter Lawrence. Now, Doug Analytics followed that up with Brian Burns, KT, and Abdul Carter have played 32 of 83 snaps together per Next Gen Stats. That's 38.6%. Still feels way too low, man. Still feels way too low. Muasau has now gotten hurt. That gives you an opportunity to get all those dudes on the field at the same time. I just would rather have those 4 guys on the field at the same time more than 38.6%. Definitely more than 12%. I'll say that much. Like, I guess the game plan coming in was, well, we don't really feel like we want to give Abdul Carter some time to develop and blah, 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 and adjust the speed and the game and figuring out, getting used to the playbook and acclimating himself with everything. And it's like, okay. But when these 4 guys are on the field, it's special. Something good always happens for the Giants defense when these four mofos are on the field together. And yep, 12% of the game. 12% of the snaps on defense. It's just, ugh. What are you doing? Get them all on the field. There must have been a conversation with the coaches being like, well, definitely on third and passing situations. When it's third down and long and passing situations, guaranteed all four of them on the field. So we got those snaps. And it's like, but there's only so many snaps. And you know how you can get to third and long more often? Having them on the field for second and first down. When those guys are on the field together, you are playing your best possible defense. It's always going to result in something positive. You look at a lot of the plays that happened where we're getting gashed or we're not looking like we did. I mean, there were two defensive drives early in the game where it was like, this is the defense that we thought we were getting. We're going to tear shit up if this is the defense, because they made Dallas look like fools on the first couple of drives. Nope. Just like abandon that. And to me, it's like it has to be an endurance issue. It just feels like that's the only excuse the coaches can be using at this point was, well, they were gassed. And admittedly, towards the end of the game, when they had all those points being scored and in overtime, the defenses were gassed. So I get that. But like first quarter, second quarter, first half, why? I don't know. Like, why are they not on the field together? And like, maybe, it's just one of those things where I don't know that we're never going to get a clear answer on, because they're going to give us some weird sideways answer that's just like, well, they're still young. They're still learning. Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau are sixth amongst edge rushers and pressures through 2 weeks. Good to see. You don't have them on the field at the same time a lot of times. Okay. Brian Burns is seventh. So, I mean, again, those three together equals pressure. So maybe, I don't know, try to get them on the field more often. Darius Alexander, after being a healthy scratch in week 1, made his debut on Sunday, week 2. Was on the field for 15 defensive snaps, registered a quarterback hit and a pressure while lining up in a few different spots across the defensive line. The clip package that I saw on X it did not look that great for him. So I don't know that he's really won anyone over or made a case for him to be a starter or a heavier part of the rotation. But, and again, that's a third fucking rounder that you spent. And like when it's a 25-year-old, like that guy has to come in and be a difference maker and start and play well from the fucking get, because you've lost 3 years or more of potential pro playing career. So hopefully it's a Strahan thing, because I was looking at single game records for the Giants in franchise history to see like where does Russell Wilson stack up. And I happened to look at like defense, and like even though Strahan was the leader in sacks for 94, 95, 96, he was getting like 5 or 6 sacks. This is a guy who I think he was drafted in 92, if not 92, 93. Didn't lead the team in sacks until 95, 96. And even then it was 5 or 6 sacks. It was not double-digit sacks. And then 97, and then it was like 97, 98, 99. He's just like double digits. So that's 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97. That's like, 7 years where he's cracking double digits. And it was 5-ish years before he was leading the team in sacks. So again, different era. The time to be good is you have a much shorter runway, a shorter leash nowadays. Daniel Jones. I mean, we're going to talk about him in a little bit, but Jesus Christ, dude. I mentioned it after the Panthers game in that video. I got to dig that up and recirculate that, because for the most part, for so far, I've been spot on, where it's like age 27 is usually when quarterbacks peak and hit their prime. You look at all the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, the majority of them are 27 years old. That's when people usually turn it on and play their best. It's when these guys who have been cast aside that now have a second wind or second coming, like a Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, etc., Baker Mayfield, age 27 is a key age where they start to come redeem themselves. And sure enough, that's happening with Daniel Jones. So Darius Alexander is 24, 25. So hopefully we're sitting here 2-3 years from now when he's 27. And we're saying, hey, remember when he was a healthy scratch week 1? That was wild. Cowboys found the end zone and all 3 other chips inside the 20. So the red zone, someone had tweeted like, wow, how did Joe Judge and Daniel Jones or Joe Judge and so-and-so almost take down Tom Brady and the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers in 2020? And I'm like, we played a lot of close games in 2020, and it was 1,000% because of the defense. We didn't have a Wink Martindale style defense where we're really blitzing and aggressive, but we also did not allow points. We just did not allow points because we were great in the red zone. Unbelievable in the red zone. Not so much outside the red zone where it's just like we're going to let guys, no one beat us deep, didn't give up big plays. So that was part of it. And a part of that's because of the coverage that we're playing and deep safeties and allowing a lot of the underneath and crossers and mid routes like that come up and make the tackle. But once you get in the red zone and everything's squished, we just didn't give up touchdowns. I think I put this out there. I was like, we finished that season 6-10, almost made the frickin' playoffs as the NFC East division champions just because of how bad that division was that year. But we could have been and should have been 9-7 or 9-7 or 10-6. You go back there and you look. There's at least 3 games where we lost by a field goal or less, and there's one where it's like a touchdown would have won it for us. We were not as we got off to a 1-7 start, but that if you watched that season, you were like, we're at least showing a lot more life than we were towards the second half of 2019. With Pat Shurmur as the coach and James Betcher as your DC. Red zone issues yet again. I don't know how that's possible, but here we are. Shane Bowen. We had the Cowboys dead to rights on a 2nd and 29 and couldn't wrap up. That's now becoming a hallmark of this Giants defense is like, we'll get you into really long down and distances, and then you will immediately make it up in 2 downs and get the first down. Like, what the fuck? Marshall Green tweeted, a quote from Brian Dable in, I don't know if it was today's press conference or the post-game press conference, but Dable had the balls. He doesn't have balls anymore for a lot of what's happening while coaching during the game, but he has balls to say things like this after the game. Quote, we knew Aubrey had a long leg and tried to play tight coverage. And Marshall Green asked, does he think we are stupid? Yes, Marshall, he thinks we're stupid because he's a genius. This is and I know screenshots are not fair the majority of the times. You take one still frame out of a moving shot and it's like, look how open he is. And it's like, a lot of times it's just, you take it with a grain of salt because you're like, well, that's not the reality of the situation. This is the reality of the situation. We're up by 3, 14 seconds left. Dallas is on their own 33. Okay. 14 seconds left in the game in regulations. And it's 2nd and 10. Our outside corners are playing 10 plus yards off the receiver. You have the 4 down linemen or 4 rushers. Your nickel is playing about 8 yards off his receiver. You have your 2 middle linebackers in coverage who are playing about 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. You have your 2 safeties who are playing almost 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. You have right where that Cowboys fucking star is at midfield is wide open. You also have another wide open gap in front of the linebackers. What the fuck are you doing, Shane Bowen? On that fumble or that hit, Prescott's hit, the ball goes forward. It goes right through Dexter Lawrence's hands. And I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. I did see one person say, what if Dex caught it? But what an end to the game. That would have ended the game. And we're sitting here and we're saying, we got something. Defense came up big when they needed to, came up clutch, made a play, got a turnover, made a stop. how different we would all be acting, and the confidence is back. You're not 0-2, you're 1-1, and now you can feel really good about yourself going in the Chiefs game. Again, these little things, man. Not going for it when you're fourth and less than 2 at the beginning of the game in week 1. I think that could have turned around that game. It's like these little plays that just plague you throughout the season. Through 2 weeks, the Giants rank dead last in yards against, dead last in rushing yards against, next to dead last in red zone defense, 31st out of 32. And we've created 1 turnover, and we have 16 total over the 19 games that Bowen has been here. That's tough, man. That's tough. Sal, who is so back at Queens_guy, said, since being hired as defensive coordinator in 2024, Bowen has been given Brian Burns, the best safety of the 2024 NFL draft, one of the best up-and-coming slot corners in the NFL, a supposed CB1, who is one of the top cornerbacks available in the free agency market this past offseason, one of the top safeties on the free agency market. He's been given a 3rd overall pick in the 2025 draft, a certified game wrecker. Dexter Lawrence, a former first rounder and All-Pro. Kayvon Thibodeau, a former first rounder and borderline Pro Bowler. That's his ceiling, maybe. And we have the worst ranked defense in the National Football League. But, it's not Shane Bowen's fault. I really think that Shane Bowen called a great game. And it's like, you do? Okay. Defense is not the issue. You don't think we have a bad defense. Okay. Zane at This Is Not Zane said, Bowen has been the DC for 19 games. He's given up 476 points. That's 25 points per game. And I'm here to tell you, I don't care what kind of offense you have. It's not going to win a lot of games. So as much as we like to blame the offense, and they deserve it, the offense came to play on Sunday. You really could not have asked for a better performance than that. And your defense just no-showed. It just, after those first couple drives, it was like I don't know what was going on, other than they're just not well conditioned, which, back in the day, it was like that was what preseason was get conditioned, get in playing shape. I don't know that that's really the case anymore. I don't think it has been for a while. So it's going to take another 3 to 4 weeks for these guys to get into shape. That's the only thing I can think of here. These guys are not coaching like their fucking jobs are on the line. And I understand that was probably the agreement that they had with Mara, was we're not going to do anything rash to hurt the team or the organization. We're not going to force something to save our jobs. So that's probably in the back of their heads, but at the same time, dude, you're gonna get fired if you keep losing. You have to show progress. Fuck it. And maybe, I don't know. This is where I wish I could watch the whole game, no commercials, just looking at the players and trying to figure out, like, are they subbing themselves out? Or are you subbing in for them? And if you are subbing in for them, why? Knowing that your best success comes when these 4 are on the field. Special teams. I like Gunnar Olszewski returning kicks. I like Tyron Tracy returning kicks. Now that you have someone like a Cam Scattaboo, and at the very least Devin Singletary, it's not like a Jason Sehorn type thing where it's like if he gets hurt, our defense is fucked, or if, like I said, I think I would prefer having him back there than Wandale. With Gibson in the mix now, you would think that Gibson is now going to be the other returner next to Olszewski. Gano made all 3 of his field goal attempts with a long of 38. He's now 5 for 5 this season. Congratulations. And then Brandon Aubrey. We know that he made the 64-yard field goal as time expired to force OT. I had no doubt in my mind that he was going to drill that fucking football. Like, I was just like, it almost does not matter who's kicking that ball in that instance. If it's seconds to play in the game and it's 60 or more yards to kick the field goal, they're going to hit it because it's the Giants. It's the second longest made field goal of Aubrey's career, the fifth made field goal of 60 or more yards in the final 5 seconds a game since 2000. Each of the previous 4 won the game. It's the first since Minnesota Vikings kicker Greg Joseph hit a 60-plus yarder in the final 5 seconds of the Week 16 game of 2022 NFL season against the New York Football Giants. It's the 4th career-made field goal of 60-plus yards for Aubrey alone. Schefter also provided this gem. Brandon Aubrey became the first NFL player ever to convert a game-tying field goal with no time remaining in the 4th quarter and a game-winning field goal with no time remaining in overtime in the same game. It's also the 3rd longest field goal in NFL history. Aubrey remains the only kicker of the century with a 90% hit rate from 50-plus. The guy was like a soccer player and selling insurance or something like that. That's just usually how it works. That's the game. Cowboys game. Absolutely insane game that if the Giants win, everyone would say it's an upset, it's a surprise, it's a shock, and who knows how that affects the season. Instead, we're 0-2 yet again. In terms of the most 0-2 starts since 2013, the Giants lead the pack with an active streak of 10 0-2 starts since 2013. The next closest is the Carolina Panthers with 7. Then you have the Bengals, Jags, and Colts all tied at 6. Brian Daboll is now 11-31-1 since starting 7-2 in 2022. That's a 26.1% winning percentage. Joe Judge was 10-23, which is a 30.3 winning percentage, and Shermer was 9-23, a 28.1 winning percentage. So I would think if that winning percentage is right around the same once the season is over, I don't know that you can really justify bringing Daboll back again for another season. Everyone's just going to keep pointing at Jackson Dart. But you can't. He's got to. Yeah, because he did so well with all our other quarterbacks. Oof. Chiefs preview. I've kind of been sporadically sprinkling a lot of that shit throughout my Cowboys recap. But essentially the way I see it, that defense, we're not going to be able to put up the numbers we did against Dallas against the Chiefs. So I would think that you're probably going to lean more towards what we saw in week 1. And that sucks because it's in the national spotlight. And so you're going to have jokes galore, memes galore about the Giants throughout that 3-hour fiasco that's on the horizon. So I don't think it's going to be pretty. Yeah, Sunday, September 21st, 8:20 start time. Chiefs are favored by 6. Ooh. Yeah, I'll take that. Chiefs by 6. Over-under is 43. I really thought that the Giants-Cowboys game was going to go under 44.5, and I was so wrong. The Cowboys almost topped that by themselves. So who am I, dude? You don't listen to me. The difference here, though, is that I don't think that the Chiefs – I think the Chiefs are going to – that defense is going to be out for blood. They held Jalen Hurts in the Week 2 game against the Eagles, which I don't know if you heard about this. It was a Super Bowl rematch. They only said that a bajillion times. But they held Hurts to like 100 yards passing. Saquon had a very quiet 22 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's still really good. I think anyone would take that on their team in a heartbeat. I mean, this is what the Eagles do, dude. And they constantly catch shit for it. And it's like, we're still giving them shit for this. We're still giving them shit for not looking like blowing everyone out of the water and just winning games. We're still okay. Cool. Patrick Mahomes is their leading rusher, the Chiefs' leading rusher, which is, I guess Russell Wilson is our leading rusher. So who are we to talk? So after 2 weeks, the Chiefs are only 25th in points scored per game. We actually, after this explosion, We're actually 19th in points per game, so we average more. Chiefs allow 23.5 points per game, which is 19th. We allow 30.5 points per game, which is 27th. They're a -1 in takeaway differential, which is really interesting, placing them 23rd, and we're even at 0, which is 15th. They average 211 passing yards per game, which is 17th league wide, and we're 289, which is third. Of course, it's heavily skewed based on the week 2 performance. They average 109 rushing yards per game, which is also 17th. And we average 79, so we're 28th in rushing yards. So they're 15th in defensive passing yards allowed in the game, and 16th in defensive rushing yards allowed per game. So, and we're 277 and 177 respectively, 28th and 32nd. So this defense, if the Chiefs were looking for a get-right game offensively, I think this is it for them. That's a no-brainer. And then for the Giants, it's just like, could get ugly with Shane Bowen running the helm here. And I don't know that our offense is going to be able to replicate what we did against Dallas. So it's could get and you also have the league not wanting their golden boys in the Chiefs to go 0-3. But wouldn't it be a cooler story, NFL, if they went 0-3 and then came back and made the playoffs and still went to the Super Bowl? No? Okay. Who knows? I mean, maybe the defense does get right on this one. Shane Bowen wakes up from his stupor and is able to fix things and get it right against the Chiefs offense that is not the Chiefs offense of old. And I would say even last season, the Chiefs offense wasn't like this juggernaut that they were in years past. I think the defense carried them last season. The defense is carrying them or trying to carry them again this season. And, not having Xavier Worthy, not having Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown has some injuries. They just really banged up along the receiving core. And a lot of people are saying Travis Kelce is not, he's in his 11th year. And a lot of the most elite tight ends that are legends at their position, in their 11th year or after, it's pretty steep decline. So I don't know that he's going to really be the guy to beat you, but I'm not saying, don't pay any attention to him. It's just like, I don't think, you're not as scared or worried about him as you were in years past. Again, I think it comes down to getting those 4 dudes on the field at the same time. And if you can get that pressure, because the one thing that the Chiefs offense, in addition to the receiving core being so banged up and depleted, their offensive line is not great either. So it's like if you can get at least some pressure on Mahomes and then minimize the scrambles, the big gains on the scrambles, again, you going back to what you faced in Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott not as mobile, quick or fast as Jaden Daniels, and I think, didn't find the space to scramble in week 2. Mahomes is more akin to Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels gashed us with his legs running the ball. Do you rush 4 with the core 4? I don't know that that's going to be their nickname, but you need all 4 of them on the field. And if you're rushing all 4, then who's your spy? Who does that become on Mahomes? Shane Bowen gets paid a lot of money to figure that out. I don't get paid to go out. So I don't have the answer for you, but Dane Belton, maybe. Or maybe it's, I don't know if it's Drew Phillips because he's your surest tackler, but he is fast to get to Mahomes. I don't know, but Drew Phillips is your surest tackler, but again, he's also pretty good in coverage. So is that, hey, Deonte Banks, you want to make a good impression? You actually want to stay on this team and be a contributor? Maybe you're the spy. Predictions. I could very easily see us keeping this close for a half. And then I do think that towards the second half, at least in the fourth quarter, that the Chiefs start to pull away. And then that's when they cover is in the fourth. But, it could be they go up by 2 scores in the fourth at some point. Similar to like what happened in that Bengals game on prime time where it's like it's close, and then defense just falls apart and the score looks worse than what it actually was. As much as I love seeing what the offense was able to do, opening it up and being more explosive and throwing downfield, I just don't see that happening against the Chiefs defense because of our offensive line. And they have such a ferocious, feisty defensive line. I mean, Chris Jones is just a monster. Defense will probably come to play, and that's why we'll be in the game still. Because the offense, I have a feeling you're going to see you're going to see 3 and outs, you're going to see field goals from the offense again. Maybe a touchdown. But, it's like maximum points. I'm looking at us scoring 2 field goals, maybe 3 field goals and a touchdown. So that would be 6, 7, 13 to 16 points. I think that's really the ceiling for us against that Chiefs defense. And then I can see our defense keeping it within a score for the better part of 3.5 quarters, and then Kansas City just taking over. It would be monumental for the Giants to come out and get an upset here and take that momentum into the game against the Chargers and giving you that extra juice and mojo for the Chargers, because the Chargers have as good as, if not better, defense than the Chiefs. But is that offense? We'll see. They haven't started the second Monday night game yet. The first one's still going on, so we'll see how the Chargers play against the Raiders, which I don't know that the Raiders have like this crazy awesome defense, but they do have Max Crosby. Who says that Daniel Jones is good? What a segue. There's a clip going around. Max Crosby on a podcast, might have been him saying that he doesn't understand why people are down on Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. He's athletic. He's smart. Blah, 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 blah. So let's talk about Daniel Jones. This is going to be a thing, folks. You can tune out if you want, but I like Daniel Jones. I didn't initially like the pick when he was drafted. I continue to get shit for that, wanting Dwayne Haskins over Daniel Jones. I continue to get pushback and heat for that. But then once I saw Daniel Jones in the preseason, and once I saw him specifically in this first start against the Buccaneers this rookie year, I was like, I am all in. And I was all in until the Panthers game in 2024. And then that's when I was like, okay, yeah, you can't do this anymore. But I believe I said in that video, he's only 27, and look at all these other quarterbacks that have found a new team and have found a coach that gets it and can, an actual QB whisperer, an actual QB guru, and actually, a coach that can take a quarterback and bring the best out of them, a la Kevin O'Connell. And apparently a Shane Steichen. According to Pro Football Focus, Daniel Jones in his first 2 games as an Indianapolis Colt, 74.2% adjusted completion percentage, 616 total yards against it. That's second most in the NFL. 5 total touchdowns, 0 turnovers, and 111.1 passer rating. So the only time that he had a passer rating like that was in 2022, and he was not throwing as much in that 2022 season as he is now with the Colts. He's throwing 30 plus attempts a game. That 2022 season was extremely run heavy, where we're asking him to throw like 20 times a game, and he would get like 150 passing yards, but he would throw a touchdown and run for a touchdown. He's now throwing for touchdowns and running for touchdowns for Indianapolis, but way more yards, way more attempts. And his success is predicated on the fact that he has a Jonathan Taylor. And you're saying, well, DJ had Saquon. And it's like, but there's that little caveat, little asterisks. That Colts offensive line has been so good for so long. And he finally has an offensive line that can not just pass protect, but can also run the ball. You can see Daniel Jones had success in 22 when he on the times that he did throw the ball, because he had a run game, and so the play action was way more effective because there was actually some concern about coming up and stopping the run. The same thing is happening. That's what's happening with the Colts here and now. I watched the highlights. I watched the week 1 highlights. I watched them all. I watched all the week 2 highlights. And I'm going to continue to watch all the highlights as long as he's the starting quarterback and as long as he's playing well to see what we're missing out on, A, but also like to see if a lot of what I saw when he was in a Giants uniform is carrying over to his playing time as a Colt. Like, did I expect to tune in and watch and have it be completely different? No, but you see the numbers and you're like, this is like back-to-back games. Everyone's saying, the first week, well, it's the Dolphins. The Dolphins are absolute trash, which is like, it's a really bad defense against a really bad team. Let's see it against a team like the Broncos, who have one of the better defenses. That Broncos defense is not as good as it was last season or the year before. Like 2023 and 2024, they had like one of the best defenses. I don't know that it's necessarily at that point anymore where they're a top 5 defense. I think it's like borderline top 10 defense. But still a bigger, harder test for Daniel. And he played well enough to win. I mean, obviously he gets lucky and he gets fortunate. And the Broncos, it's more a case of the Broncos losing the game than it is the Colts winning the game, because the Broncos, Bo Nix throws a pick deep in Colts territory that ends a drive that was going to end in points. That would have been 3 points. Lutz bangs one off the right upright. That's another 3 points. So it's just, they left 6 points on the field, and that's ended up being the difference. So it's more in my head like Broncos losing than it is the Colts winning. But Colts, this is from NFL Plus. The Colts are the first team in the Super Bowl era to not punt in either of the first 2 games in a season. That's crazy. After watching so many Daniel Jones starts be like setting records for punts, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 punts, to know that his team has not punted in 2 games in which he started is it's like all the Daniel Jones supporters are like, this is what we thought. This is what we had. This is what we thought we had. This is what we thought we were going to get. And we didn't get it because, take a wild guess, dude. Offensive line sucked and your coaches sucked. Statistically, he could end up as one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL this season. I don't think there's already talk about him being an MVP, which is just like, no, we can't do that yet. Let's get a 3rd game in before. 3rd times, once is blah, blah, blah. 2 times is, once could be a mistake or a fluke. 2 times is like, I'm thinking about it. 3 times, okay, I'm locked in. This is a trend. This is a pattern. And I think we can all get on board the bandwagon. I think he needs a 3rd before anyone's, just like these first 2, for anyone to start being whispers about MVP talk. As long as they keep winning, if they keep winning and he keeps playing like this, it's like, it's kind of hard to ignore, at least not having the conversation. It's a long shot, I know. There are very few quarterbacks that can overcome a poor offensive line and a lack of a running game. All right, you think about like 2011 Eli Manning. I mean, that's the reason he won the MVP. It was because didn't have a great offensive line. We were like near the bottom of the barrel in rushing, but was able to hang in there, take hits, and deliver the ball and win games and be clutch. What's that like? So he's not a Josh Allen, right? He's not a Patrick Mahomes. He's not a Joe Burrow. Quarterbacks that have historically shown that they don't need although Mahomes, you can see like it's taken a toll. Like you still need some guys out there like helping you out. But like to not be able to get Isaiah Pacheco up and running, which is unfortunate because I like the way he runs. And he's a Rutgers guy. What up? But yeah, you can see it can take its toll. And Josh Allen is Superman, and he's doing like Superman things. Lamar Jackson is another one that I omitted. I apologize. Lamar Jackson's the guy that can overcome a poor offensive line, probably better than even Josh Allen. So there's very few quarterbacks, a handful at most, and I don't put Daniel Jones in that category. However, I think you exclude that top echelon, so Hurts, Dak, Mahomes, and you put it in the, if you would put some other mid-tier quarterbacks on this Colts team, he's on par with them. So that's why when someone says, "Oh, he's a top 10 quarterback right now," it's like, I mean, statistically, that's accurate. It's only 2 weeks, but statistically, it's accurate. And let's see how a full season plays out. But this is what you can expect from Daniel Jones, is that he appears to be a playoff caliber quarterback. Again, went to the playoffs, won an away game. I know it's against the then very bad Vikings defense, but offensive line protects. They can run the ball. They can run play action. He will be successful. Like, he needs those things to line up in order to be a winning quarterback, which is the case for the bulk of quarterbacks. Josh Allen showed on Sunday Night Football week 1. It's like, I don't need a running game. I'm just going to will myself to this friggin' win. Interestingly enough, I love graphics like this because it always gets people up in arms. But someone put up a graphic comparing Daniel Jones to Josh Allen this year through 2 weeks, and it's like Josh Allen has 631 total yards. Daniel Jones has 616. Daniel Jones has 5 total touchdowns. Josh Allen has 4. Neither of them have thrown an interception yet. Jones has a 71.4% completion percentage to Josh Allen's 66.2%. And DJ's passer rating is a 111.1 versus Josh Allen's 98.4. And again, like, who are you taking? Who are you taking? 10 out of 10, you're taking Josh Allen. But I just found that incredibly funny, that the Dan wagon, people are on board. It's getting crowded. I'm like the parade goer watching the Dan wagon going by and cheering it on. Like, I got a big foam finger with DJ's number 1, and I've got pom-poms and shit. Like, I'm definitely rooting for him. I don't know how you can't. The people that gave him such hate and vitriol, it's like, for me, it wasn't hate. It was just frustration. You've seen such great flashes from him that you just didn't see with other quarterbacks that have taken snaps for the Giants. You just saw him doing things that was like, Eli couldn't do that. And, well, no other quarterback has done that in NFL history. In a half, no one's done that in a road playoff game. No one's done. It's just like weird stats about no other quarterback has. Just like, I mean, to anyone who doesn't think that psyche plays a tremendous part of the game for an athlete, a player, especially a quarterback, Daniel Jones is example 101. There's plenty of other examples where you're put in a bad situation behind a bad offensive line with bad play calling. I mean, talk to the numerous Cleveland Browns quarterbacks that went through their system. Talk about any franchise or team that has just gone through a quarterback carousel, and you'll find similar answers. Didn't feel safe and comfortable in the pocket. Didn't feel safe keeping my eyes up while scrambling. Didn't feel comfortable. It's a lot of people excel when they can. It's applied across any workspace or office. Like, you excel and you're at your best when you feel comfortable, safe. I'm super happy for Daniel Jones. I mean, it's just like, those are the numbers I look at those numbers, the back-to-back week 1 and 2, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Yes. See? I mean, how many times did I, over the course of his tenure with the Giants, say, if you put him on the Eagles, he'll win games. If you put him on this team, he'll win games. If you put him on the Cowboys, he'll win games. If you put him on the Packers, he'll win games. If you put him on, if you put him behind a solidly constructed offensive line that can produce an efficient run game and protect him. And when I say protect him, it's not like he's not getting hit or pressured or hurried or getting sacked. He's getting sacked. He's getting pressured. He's getting hurried. He faced a ton of pressure against that Broncos defense. What I'm saying, though, is when you get 2.3 seconds to pass with the Giants versus you get 2.9 seconds to pass with the Colts, or 3 seconds or more, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough for you to recognize the second or third read and pull the trigger, or just shuffle a little bit. I watched him, the highlights against the Broncos, and it was like, last season with the Giants or the season before when he was in shell shock, I could see him going, like, just giving up and going down or trying to run through the offensive line, just, like, not looking down the field, not waiting for the guy to get open, and not pulling the trigger or throwing it away. This one, he just calmly shuffles to his left. He's got, like, 2 or 3 guys, like, they're about to hit him, shuffling calmly to his left and throwing to a deep crosser, coming across to the left for a big first down. It was just like, where the fuck was this with us? Why didn't that happen with us? And it's like, it's because that 0.5 seconds. I know it's like you're putting a lot of weight on 0.5 seconds, but it's 0.5 seconds. Because in the 0.5 seconds, he was able to take a step left and fire the ball to a guy that was coming open versus he's unable to make the step left because he's on the ground. So it's not like a huge, tremendous difference. And in terms of like throwing the deep ball, like if we had Daniel this year, he's not doing what Russ did in week 2. Like I think his longest pass air yards so far through 2 weeks is 51 air yards, which was in the Broncos game to Alec Pierce. And if you watch on that play, Alec Pierce had to slow down and almost come to a stop and jump up. So Russ, there's no argument that Russ throws the better deep ball and is better equipped to get deeper passes and more explosive plays. It's also to say that Daniel Jones is not strictly the guy that he was in 2023 and 24 in terms of nothing deep. You know, what I think he really excels and thrives and succeeds is in that mid-level. So you're looking at 15 yards, 20 yards, 15, 20, 15, 20, like in that range. It's like if you can get him in that range, which we did in the playoff game against the Vikings on the road, you know, not so much against the Eagles, but in the following week. But like that's where we saw him get nice chunk plays. It was never, you know, there was the rookie season where he was going deep to Slayton a lot. It was like, where has that gone? Oh my God, those are the days. You know, I just remember watching that and being like, these are 2 rookies and we have them for at least the next 4 years. Football's going to be fun. And it could not have been further from the truth after that 2019 season. Oh, screw you, Jason Garrett. Screw you, Joe Judge. Screw you, Brian Daboll. Daniel Jones. At this rate, you got to feel like the Colts are the favorite to win the AFC South. I don't know what their schedule looks like in terms of strength of schedule, but the fact that they were able to take the Broncos, a playoff team last season, who many think are going to be a playoff team again this season, down to the wire and win it. I mean, you know, the whole like leverage thing, giving 15 yards on a leverage thing. And if I'm a Broncos fan, I am super sore about that one. I mean, Jesus, tough call because that 60-yarder was nowhere close to coming to being good. Yeah, I'm pulling for the Colts and I'm pulling for Daniel Jones. Must be nice to have Tyler Warren. Must be nice to have Jonathan Taylor. Must be nice to have the offensive line. It just feels like this is kind of what you can expect. I'm sure there's going to be a game or two where he reverts and everyone's like, oh, see, this is the Daniel Jones we know and love. And it's like, I don't know. He looks really happy. He looks like he's comfortable. He looks like he has the support of his teammates. And it looks like Steichen and crew have really designed a game plan where he's gonna thrive. I hate using the word thrive, but like grapes on the vine, my guy. Like they are just so juicy. That's the episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Talk to you next time. Adios. Muchachos.